In the appendix of Sant'Antonio's first biography, the Assidua, we find a list of no less than 51 miracles that, read in the presence of Pope Gregory IX, led to his canonization in the Cathedral of Spoleto on May 30th, 1232. Also in the book of Sant'Antonio's miracles, the Franciscan friar Arnaldo da Serrano recounts as many as 66 miracles plus 14 prodigious events. It should therefore come as no surprise that for centuries Antony has been known throughout the world as the Saint of Miracles. If we scroll through the history books, we see that the greatest disasters that can strike a nation are always caused either by wars or natural disasters. Of the latter, the most frightening is certainly the earthquake, which, as we all know, is terribly destructive and causes many casualties. We need only recall the recent earthquake that struck Turkey and Syria, which left more than 50,000 dead and 1.5 million homeless. In the late 1800s, an earthquake struck the region of Umbria in Italy. There had been mild tremors in the previous days, but people had not paid much attention to them. One night, however, just before dawn, a strong tremor first caused tiles to fall from roofs, and then cornices from buildings. And before long, it was all a succession of collapses and rumbles. Next to a heap of rubble, the faint voice of an old woman raised her prayer to heaven. "Saint Anthony, please, save my son." And here is a small ex voto which describes the story behind this prayer. Matthew was a bricklayer in a small town near Perugia. He was a strong, sturdy young man who, not having yet found the right girl for himself, lived with his mother Adelina, who had been a widow for many years. That evening, after celebrating payday with his co-workers, Matthew had gone to bed and immediately fell asleep like a stone. Adelina too had gone to bed in a small room next to her sons and had concluded her prayers with the sign of the cross and the usual invocation, "Saint Anthony, protect our lives." Around 4 o'clock in the morning, the terribly strong tremor began, not only in Perugia, but in the entire surrounding region. Within moments, many houses were reduced to piles of rubble, with the furniture, belongings, and lives of many poor human beings under it. Adelina had remained miraculously unharmed, but the wall separating her room from Matthew's had completely collapsed, and what appeared before her eyes horrified her. Matthew, still lying on his bed, was imprisoned by a large wooden beam that had fallen from the roof. His face was pale and his eyes were closed. He looked dead. "Saint Anthony, save him, I implore you," begged Adelina, who could not reach her son because of the rubble. Finally, Adelina heard her son's voice. "Mom, are you hurt?" The beam that held him in prison had not broken a single bone of his body, and Matthew, with his mason strength, managed to move it with ease, and climbing over the rubble, he quickly reached his mother. She threw her arms around his neck and whispered, "Saint Anthony and the Virgin Mary have saved us." And now, let's turn to Saint Anthony in prayer. I'll place my hand on his tomb for all of you. Dear Saint Anthony, please defend us from calamities and misfortunes and open our hearts to generosity and assistance of those in need. Amen.